Feather the Redeemed versus Lord Windgrace. I haven't played Lord Windgrace in a while, might have to get back on that. Yeah, we've got some early game plays there. I don't know whether to go for the Crusader or Sol Ring. We'll keep it anyway. We need to get into some cantrip spells, of which we have quite a few. Yeah, if we go for Plains into Sol Ring and then Pearl Medallion, we can actually go for Open the Armory and a Crowing Crusader next turn. And then we're pretty reliant on getting into another coloured land. This is the only problem with our commander. Anyway, we'll pass over like that. Feather the Redeemed is a 3-mana Boros commander, a 3/4 flyer. Whenever we cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature we control, we get it back into our hand at the next end step. And that is certainly a red source, so we'll get in for that. Let's make that a mountain. And then we can go for a plateau with Flooded Strand. So let's go a Crowing Crusader. And this is heroic. Whenever you cast a spell that targets it, you get a 1/1 soldier with haste. Let's go Open the Armory. And I think the Jitte is going to be quite good here, because we can get down the Jitte onto this thing next turn and cast Feather, and then we can move the Jitte over to Feather if we want to. Lord Windgrace is a 5-mana Jund commander with 5 loyalty. The +2 is draw and discard. If you discard a land, you draw 2. -3 reanimates a couple of lands. And -11 destroy up to 6 non-land permanents, and then create 6 green Cat Warrior creature tokens. Now we could wasteland that black mana. Yeah, I think we'll just go in for the Plains for now. If our opponent gets rid of Feather, then I think we will go for the wasteland onto the black mana. With a hand like this, and against Lord Windgrace, we can't really be too kind to them. But at least if they get down a mana dork now, we can blow it up with the Jitte. Oh, and they can get into black mana there anyway, so the wasteland won't be as good. They might have damnation mana here. Oh, they didn't go for black mana off of that. Yeah, I think we have to wasteland next turn, actually. There's a Perforos, that's curious, so they might be going for things like Avenger of Zendikar. Well, we'll see if our opponent scoops up to it. But first, we'll get down the Chromatic Lantern. Included this in the deck because the colours on our commander can be a bit tricky sometimes. Sol Ring doesn't help us get our commander out any quicker. Yeah, we'll go for the Jitte over to our commander. And then we'll swing in like that. And I think we need to start going for commander damage. So let's plus up twice. And if we do this a couple more times, then our opponent is going to be going down to 21 commander damage. Go for Wasteland here and get rid of that black mana. I don't normally like going for spiky plays like that, and yeah, that's exactly why. I don't like going for spiky plays like that, but we don't have anything in hand, and we're up against Lord Windgrace, which can be a really explosive commander, so I'm surprised they didn't go for another black source with the Windswept Heath. I don't know what they were going in for there. I don't know if that was a rage quit or if they just didn't have anything else for 3 mana. But when we're not drawing into anything, yeah, an Impact Resonance wouldn't have helped us. God's Willing might have helped us. We would have scryed Accelerate onto the top. But by the time we actually got into these spells, we probably would have been getting commander damage on our opponent anyway. So that's that. Quick one there. I don't know if I'm going to put another video in after this, but hopefully you all enjoyed this game, and I'll see you in the next one. Feather the Redeemed versus Tasigur the Golden Fang. Well, we could do with another white source there, but we have Crimson Wisps if we are desperate, so yeah, we'll keep that. And I think instead of a Swiftfoot Boots, well, there's another land, but it is a colourless one. We don't have many colourless lands in the deck, so that's pretty unlucky drawing into that. I say we go for Braid of Fire on turn 1. That will add a red mana at the beginning of our upkeep per age counter. That is on Braid of Fire. Feather the Redeemed is a 3 mana 3/4 flyer. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery that targets a creature you control, then you get it back to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. Tasigur the Golden Fang is 6 mana for a 4/5 with Delve. And for 4 mana, put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard, then return a non-land card of an opponent's choice from graveyard to hand. Now, we definitely want to try and get into a white source, but we didn't, so we'll just go Cavern of Souls and name Angel. And that can be one of our white sources for Feather. Let's just go Champion's Helm here. And we want to keep hold of Crimson Wisps for as long as we can, because we'll be able to make use of the Braid of Fire during the upkeep with that. And more ramp from our opponent. They went for a 3 visits and now into a Nature's Law. Okay, well, an electrostatic field is something to do at least, so we'll equip that up and put the Champion's Helm onto it. Electrostatic field is a 0/4 wall defender, and whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, we deal 1 damage to our opponent. And then we might as well, just to make use of our mana, get the Swiftfoot Boots down. The electrostatic field can't attack anyway because it has defender, so not too worried about buffing that and giving it haste. And our opponent has tutored for a mana drain, so that's good fun for us. Good thing is we have Cavern of Souls out, so if we get into another white source, Feather will be unblockable at least. And we're now going to add 3 mana with the Braid of Fire, although we have to spend it during our upkeep, so it's not really of much use to us. Yeah, there's nothing we can do here, so we'll just go for the Crimson Wisps onto the electrostatic field. Unfortunate that we have to waste that card, but it is a card draw, so that will hopefully get us into white mana. And there we are. Unfortunately, had to spend our red mana to do that, so we are still in a tricky place with regards to mana. Let's just put the boots onto there. And then we can go Long Road Home onto the electrostatic field if we want to. And that will at least get a damage onto our opponent. Our mana has been really wonky this game, so not too hopeful that we'll get a whole lot going. And there's another tutor from our opponent. And they played a command tower right after the demonic tutor, so I don't know if that's what they tutored for. They might have just played it that way to keep us guessing. And down comes the Tasigur. They don't have the mana drain held up, but they might have some kind of Spell Pierce or Swan Song. There's a few 1 mana counter spells they could have. Going to go in for Long Road Home here. Alright, and we get into another Plains. Let's go in for Feather. And make sure to add red with the Cavern of Souls so that it comes down and isn't counterable. And then we don't have any more white mana now, so we can't use Ajani's Presence. We'll just start getting some commander damage on our opponent. The reason I went for the Long Road Home onto the electrostatic field was, one, to get an extra point of damage onto my opponent, but it also makes this thing a 1/5, which means that the Tasigur can't swing into it as easily. And there is a Toxic Deluge. Our opponent had to put a lot of life into that. And a Fabricate, searching for an artifact. We're just going to end up losing to tutors at this point, which doesn't feel good. Alright, they've just gone for more mana in a Sol Ring. That's pretty uneventful this stage in the game. They could have gone for worse than that. Okay, Intimidation Bolt is good to get into. Let's go in for Feather first of all. And then I think we get the Swiftfoot Boots onto Feather just so that we can start swinging in. And I'm going to hold up a white for Ajani's Presence. They do have the counter spell, but if they're going to use Mana Drain on Ajani's Presence, they'll only get one colourless mana out of that. It's a pretty good thing for them to counter. There's the Soul Ring we knew about. And a Snapcaster Mage, probably onto the Toxic Deluge again. Now we can force them to counter here, because I imagine they're not going to put enough life into the Toxic Deluge. Yes, they go for 4. So we can give Feather +1/+1. And then they have to counter this with the Mana Drain, or any other counter they have in hand. Unless they're happy for Feather to not die to Toxic Deluge. And there we go, that gets it out of their hand. They're down to 2 cards now. Now we'd like to draw into another land, because if we're going to recast Feather, we need to get Hexproof onto her. Getting that 1 mana from the Mana Drain. Don't think they'll be making use of that. Okay, there's a Gutter Snipe. I actually think it's better to get down the Gutter Snipe here. We can go for Boots and Champion's Helm. And we'll just get in at our opponent like that. I don't trust that I can get Feather down unprotected and have our opponent on tap and then have Feather survive. Now they might have instant speed removal anyway, but if they have instant speed removal in hand, then they were always going to be able to get into that anyway, so I think we just have to wait on Feather and keep our fingers crossed. Alright, I think we go for Intimidation Bolt onto the Tasigur. That will deal 2 damage. Intimidation Bolt is 3 damage to a creature, and other creatures can't attack this turn. Yeah, I was going to say I doubt they're going to swing in here. Alright, just going to wait on the Otherworldly Journey because I'm hoping that we draw into an instant or sorcery here. Well, there's one. So let's try and get Counter Magic out of our opponent's hand with that. We can give Gutter Snipe protection from black here, and that means we swing in for the victory. Looks like they do have Counter Magic though. Alright, there's a Forbid, and it doesn't look like they're paying for the buyback cost. But we'll still deal the 2 damage to them. So we'll just go in for the Otherworldly Journey, might as well. They have to be able to counter a triggered ability. And they're going for it, so they might have Trickbind in the deck. Well, you can have a Nature's Claim if you want, actually. You can have a Forbid. I'm going to assume that this won't be countered. And there we go, they didn't have a Trickbind, they couldn't have cast Disallow because they only had 2 mana. So that was a good game by our opponent. We managed to drag the game out for just long enough, and getting into Gutter Snipe really helped us there. Gutter Snipe in a deck that is full of instants and sorceries can really pile on damage in no time. Yeah, it was a little bit risky going for that Intimidation Bolt. I was assuming that our opponent was not going to allow the Gutter Snipe to swing in for 4 points of damage, which I think is a safe bet. It was just all upside for them. If they blocked the Gutter Snipe, they'd save themselves 4 points of damage and they get a Gutter Snipe off the field. So just decided to cast the Intimidation Bolt just so that we could get 2 damage with the Gutter Snipe onto Tasigur. And then as we saw the game play out, all we had to do was draw into another instant or sorcery. And whether or not our opponent counters it doesn't matter, we still get Gutter Snipe's ability onto the stack and deal those last 6 points of damage. So hope you all enjoyed that one. Didn't rely on Feather to win that one because our opponent managed to remove it just enough times, and had the game gone on any longer, I dare say that Tasigur might have pulled that one out of the bag. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.